Then, what happens after death? The loved one, knowing they will be left behind, often cannot have this conversation, except with deep suffering. For them, the question might be, how will I survive the pain of this loss? And yet, almost every time I ask my families the biggest concern, the answer is, I worry about, and here they never talk about themselves, but rather the other. I worry about them. The surviving family member may do everything within their power to assure the dying loved one, I'll be fine, don't worry about me. Go when it's time. Don't hang on for me or for us. And somehow, in this muddle of opposing needs, fierce compassion takes hold. The spiritual dimension of connection and deep peace often overcomes the fear and the pain. Conversations begin that allow each to express from a heart place that which is most important. An opening to the mystery of death and loss occurs. Even in those situations where family members do not agree, somehow grace enters in and allows healing, no matter what perspective one has taken. I'd like to take a minute and talk about the times when there are no family members present to tend to the needs of a dying person. The times when a friend or neighbor steps up to take on this monumental task. I'm thinking of one of our patients who found himself in just this situation, and his friend and neighbor stepped up in spite of his own medical issues and did everything to care for our patient. He and his wife were the ones who showed fierce compassion and who walked the difficult path with a man who was truly able to express his gratitude for their care to me and to them. Truly, they are an example of fierce compassion. All in all, the experience of walking the road of hospice reminds me of this story of one woman's experience with death and dying. She says in part, I walked on, trying to understand more about mystery and the secrets she holds. As I walked on, I was taught about breath and about sensing and feeling and caring through my heart. And still, I walked on, sometimes blind and deaf, and sometimes with pain. But I fought with my tears, and I embraced my unknowingness, and still I walked on. And my children and my family stood with me, and we came to know each other in those later years more than we had before, for some of our falseness had fallen away. I think that going through death with another person gives everyone that opportunity to let go of falseness and enter deeply into some core place of courage, compassion, and integrity. And finally, as I close, I want to share an observation and reflection. I'm not always present with my patients when they die, but every time I've been there to see someone take their last breath, I've noticed something surprising. It's always been my belief that when we die, we will take our last breath, breathing both in other words, taking an inspiration, and then breathing out, or expiring. After all, that is what we say, the person expired. And yet, what I have observed is when many of our loved ones die, they inspire. This leads to my reflection and what I'd like to leave you with today. At the end of our lives, we will inspire, leaving others with the mystery of where our expiration will take place. All of us here most likely have slightly differing views on an afterlife. And yet, if indeed, when we leave this existence, we are taking a breath in, it may prompt our imagination to wonder about that moment when and where the exhalation will occur. Our loved ones have taught us so much by their living and by their dying. They may have much to encourage us with as we continue to live each day without them here. May we hold on to the mystery of that last breath, that inspiration that has led them to a new reality. May we be inspired to continue on, bringing fierce compassion into the future, wherever we find a need. Thank you. And I'd like to introduce Art Blodgett, our lovely chaplain. Oh wait, he's already been introduced. Were you introduced?
Yes, I introduced myself.
Oh.
Thank you, Verna. When I spoke about our